How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back. Today we're going to be watching another Fat Electrician video. This time it's America's Invincible Concrete Battleship. When I saw this, I thought it was going to be about Alcatraz, but no, that's a battleship. I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to get right into it. Consider subscribing, leaving a comment or suggestion for other videos. Maybe come by the Discord or come by the stream. But without further ado, let's get into it.
Ah yes, El Frale, that time the US military-industrial complex decided to play Pimp My Island.
What?
Today we're talking about Fort Drum. Yes, I realize that's a military base in New York. No, that's not what we're talking about. There's another Fort Drum. It's guarding the mouth of Manila Bay in the Philippines. It's also referred to as El Frale Island, America's unsinkable concrete battleship, or the USS No-Go. Basically, the US military took a tiny island and turned the entire thing into a gun, and we're going to talk about it. Right after a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Sheath. Okay, here's the deal. They're like normal underwear, except they're better because they have a pouch that you can stick your junk in and then your balls aren't stuck to your thigh. And trust me, it's just one of those things you don't know you need it until you need it, and once you have it, you're not going to be able to live without it. Let's face it, every good thing that's ever happened to you in your entire life would have been a little bit more gooder if you didn't have balls stuck to your thigh the entire time. And I know what you're thinking, what if I don't have balls? That's cool. Were you with people that did? Because if you were,
the fucking Dragon Ball Z clip.
Balls weren't stuck to their thigh the entire time. You should buy them these underwear. Don't believe me? Ask the kangaroos. Those marsupials have known how awesome pouches are for like 15 million years. They've been hoarding the technology, but now Sheath is here to fix that. All I'm saying is give it a shot. Worst case scenario, you find out you actually do like having balls stuck to your thigh and these underwear aren't for you, and in which case Sheath has a 30-day no questions asked money back guarantee and you're out nothing. I'm gonna have a link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video. So why on earth did America turn an island into a giant gun? Well, our story begins in 1898 during the Spanish-American War. Why is America at war with Spain? To be honest, I'm kind of blanking out on that right now. Statistically, it's probably because they messed with our boats, so let's go ahead and double check that together.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right there because I'm going to predict what he's going to say right here. He's going to check to see like, oh, did the Spanish actually blow up whatever the name of the ship was? Nope. Nope. I don't think they did. I'm pretty sure that was kind of a made up thing. Like I'm pretty sure a ship maybe sank, but I think we blamed it on the Spanish. But I mean, that's a conspiracy theory. That's what I hear people say. I don't think it's true. No, absolutely. I don't think that that's the case. But, you know, some individuals do say that. But, you know, maybe people thinking that is the reason why we don't talk about the Spanish-American War all that often, because it, you know, the more you talk about it, the more people are going to be looking into it, and the more people are going to be like, realizing, that wasn't a good thing.
How did the Spanish-American War start? The USS Maine mysteriously exploded in a Cuban harbor, believed to be the Spanish. See, I was right. It's always the boats every single time, honestly.
Mysteriously exploded.
At this point, Jordan Peterson needs to go back and rewrite his book, because he actually wrote a book called 12 Rules for Life, and the fact that not fucking with America's boats wasn't rule number one seems like an oversight on his part. Anyways, so America sends a bunch of boats into Manila Bay to fight the Spanish. While they're headed into Manila Bay, they pass this tiny little rock island called El Frale, and on El Frale there was a bunch of Spanish artillery that basically tried to ambush all the American ships. It didn't really work, but it was a super good idea. Fast forward, America wins the Spanish-American War, takes control of the Philippines. So now with America in charge, they decided that they wanted to be able to defend Manila Bay, and they remembered back to how the Spanish almost had a successful ambush by putting artillery on El Frale, and that's when the Americans in charge said, hey, hear me out. Instead of putting artillery on El Frale, what if we turned El Frale into artillery? So the engineer was like, okay, here's the plan. We're going to level the entire island perfectly tabletop flat, and then we're...
That's me every single time I play Minecraft. Once I open that up, I'm like, I want to set up a base somewhere. I like that mountain, but it's way too pointy. Flatten it. I like it. I like that they did the exact same thing in real life. It means that I'm not just like ADHD ridden and I need to like have everything be flat. Now, even the military agrees that it's way too pointy. Flatten the shit out of that.
We're going to build an enormous concrete bunker on top of it with two battleship turrets, each of which having two 12-inch guns on them. So the engineer in charge draws the blueprints up, sends those off to the War Department to get approval, at which point the War Department is like, hold on, let me get this straight. You want to level an entire island, build an enormous concrete bunker on top of it, and then you want to equip it with two battleship turrets, each of which has two 12-inch guns that we're going to have to manufacture in Watervliet Arsenal in New York and ship them all the way to the Philippines. Yes. To which the engineer is like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And the War Department is like,
I pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Because we're going to do 14-inch guns, each of which is going to be shooting 1,600-pound shells. If somebody tries to sneak into Manila Bay, we're literally going to start shooting cars at them till they go away. So they start construction in 1909, and it takes them 5 years to finish. And what they end up with is Fort Drum. Its concrete is anywhere between 25 and 36 feet thick. The top deck is completely reinforced with steel, essentially making the entire fortress completely impervious to any weapon that exists at this point in time. Then the guns on top are 14-inch M1909
God, that's
guns
badass.
and a dual turret that was specially manufactured just for Fort Drum, and it is the only place they were ever used. This turret has armor that is 18 inches thick, virtually making that impervious too. Then, just in case being able to shoot cars at people you don't like while being inside of a bunker that makes you impervious to retaliation isn't enough, it also has 4 6-inch guns and 2 3-inch anti-air.
Okay, wait, I want to take a closer look at this. Oh, god damn it, is this in Spanish? Of course it's in Spanish. Wait, why is it in Spanish? This is America. Why are you letting the enemy be able to read your documentation? Was this for propaganda? Not for propaganda. Was this to intimidate them? It's like, hey, read this pamphlet on the new fucking battleship that doesn't move because it's on an island we made. The Philippines? It was, okay. Oh, well, I guess maybe the people, the Philippines were, oh, it's French? Not Spanish, it's worse, it's French. I'm really sad I didn't realize, oh, I should have seen the D's up there. Yeah, the D's in the wording, I should have known it was French. My bad. My bad. So I can't read anything like this, but does anyone else just get kind of excited when they see like militaristic guns from a battleship? I don't know how to explain it, but anytime I see it in like a war simulator, or anytime I see it in like a battleship game or anything, and I see the guns move, just getting into position to just bombard the hell out of people, I was like, now this is peak cinema or peak gameplay. It's so good. It's so fucking good.
Aircraft guns. And inside the bunker, they have 6 months worth of food, their own power
6
plant,
months?
and a distillery so that they can make their own clean drinking water.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, it's the world's best doomsday bunker. So it's completely done. It's like 1914. America has built this incredible weapon, and now, in true American fashion, we're not really going to use it until it's borderline obsolete, and then we're going to give it away to somebody else. So kind of fast forward through the next 20 years. I mean, there's always army guys stationed there and on hand in case anything happens, but nothing ever does. It's kind of like being stationed on a naval vessel, and because of that, the army guys that serve there give it the nickname the USS No-Go, considering it never fucking goes anywhere. Then, of course, during that same time period, World War I happens. After World War I, America downsizes their military considerably. Then the Great Depression happens, and because of that, pretty much no upgrades or maintenance gets done to Fort Drum during that entire time. So for its first 2 decades, it receives pretty much no upgrades. It's already becoming obsolete. Then in 1934, the US government comes out and says, over the course of the next 10 years, between 1934 and 1944, America is going to move towards establishing the Philippines as its own sovereign nation. So obviously, they're also going to turn over Fort Drum to the Philippines, and because of that, they have even less motivation to do any upgrades to it, so none get done. Then
Wait. They're gonna give all of that high tech. I mean, it hasn't been upgraded in a while at that time, but like, you're just gonna give all of those 18-inch guns? Wait, the big guns that shoot cars that he said, and the high grade armor that's like 18 inches thick, just over to them. 14-inch. Okay, 14-inch. I mean, that's it, man, damn. That's a win-win for the Philippines right there. It's like, hell yeah, now we got a huge mega gun. We've got Fort No-Go that ain't going nowhere, but no one's gonna fuck with us. Rave, spoken like a true American. Wait, we're just gonna give the Panama Canal back? Don't you? We built that shit with dynamite and shovels and other stuff. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how the Panama Canal got built. That shit was fucking revolutionary. Like, you're like, we need ships to go faster and get in here so that they can deliver stuff. I'm going to cut a nation in half so that we can have commerce better. Amazing. I love it. It's like, you see those mountains, you see those hills? Get them out of here. Blow them up. It's literally terraforming. We clearly use nukes. Wasn't that the plan at one point? Or someone thought that they were going to do that because we didn't fully understand radiation? And they were like, why don't we just use nukes? Just blow it up. That'll take care of the Panama. Boom, instant canal. Nothing would ever be bad. There's no such thing as radiation fallout entering the water supply. No, nothing bad like that. I've gotten off topic. Get back to the fort.
During that 10-year time period, World War II kicks off in 1939, but America's not getting involved. We're minding our own business, and by minding our own business, I mean we're basically funding the entire thing through Lend-Lease, but, you know, we're not involved. Then Pearl Harbor happens in 1941, aka somebody fucks with our boats, now we're going to war. Less than 10 hours after Pearl Harbor, the Japanese show up in the Philippines, they invade, the American forces are not ready, and they all get driven down to the Bataan Peninsula, which as you can see is also at the mouth of Manila Bay with Corregidor and Fort Drum. For like the next 5 months, while American and Filipino forces duke it out with the Japanese on the peninsula, Fort Drum is pretty much shooting at any Japanese vessel that gets anywhere near it. The Japanese vessels are returning fire at Fort Drum, they're launching air raids, trying to bomb Fort Drum, none of which is effective at all. Also during this time, the Marines and soldiers stationed at Fort Drum rip all the buildings on top of it off, throw that shit in the ocean. They also tear down the 60-foot search tower and get rid of that as well. That way, the massive turrets can do a full 360 and be able to shoot in any direction. Then
Nice.
April 9th, 1942, Bataan falls, and the only thing left is Corregidor, Fort Drum, and 2 other small coastal forts. For weeks after this, the Japanese shell both Corregidor and Fort Drum with naval gunfire, as well as conduct bombing runs. Fort Drum is pretty much completely impervious to all of it, which infuriates the Japanese. Corregidor, on the other hand,
Wait. Quick question about this, because it's made of concrete, right? When they're shooting at it, you know, the armor is concrete, if I'm not mistaken, from what he was saying. So, like, does concrete just not take any damage to? Did they make the concrete some type of special concrete that doesn't crack or get broken? Because I would think that if you're just constantly hitting it, sure, it's like super thick, but like, aren't you chipping away at it? Concrete is squishy by material standards with a lot of steel beams, etc. in it. Like, I get that, like, it wouldn't just break immediately, but over time, doesn't concrete just like get crumbly? So if you're just constantly bombarding it, it's not like steel. What I would imagine, again, I've never been shot at by giant naval vessels or had, you know, steel or concrete armor, so I'm speaking from ignorance. But the way I envision steel is like, okay, you got hit and it bent a little bit. Or like, oh, it's bent. It bends, it turns a little bit and everything, but it's still steel. But concrete is like, boom, you got hit. A bit of concrete's now just in the ocean. Or a little bit of concrete's now in the air, just gets flown off. Like, but concrete, like, you get rid of it when you get hit by it. It goes all over the place. So how is it like, oh no, we're fine for super shelling for like long periods of time? Like, that's what the steel is for. It makes it squishy enough for the concrete, but strong enough for steel. Keep watching and learn how durable this massive fortress is. Okay, all right, okay, I'll see it. Would you rather wear a fiberglass helmet with foam or a steel helmet with while riding a bike? That's fair. That's fair. So I guess it like kind of bounces it off. I'm excited to find out if he's going to explain, because I've never, it might be hard to believe, I've never been in a military combat situation where I'm getting live ammunition thrown at me.
hand is nowhere near as fortified, and they are hurting bad. Because of this, the majority of Corregidor's defenses have been completely destroyed, and the only thing defending Corregidor now is Fort Drum. On May 5th, 1942, the Japanese would launch an amphibious attack on Corregidor. Fort Drum would land direct hits on 2 Japanese landing craft, destroying them completely, infuriating the Japanese even further. Despite that, it wasn't enough, and Corregidor would fall on May 5th. The concrete battleship and the 240 men manning it are now the last holdouts in the Philippines against the Japanese.
Terrifying.
And it is pissing the Japanese off. And in immediate retaliation for them taking out several of the Japanese landing crafts at Corregidor, they begin launching air raids against Fort Drum, and they are, again, completely ineffective. During those air raids, some of the Marines manning the anti-aircraft guns would manage to shoot down a Japanese bomber, only serving to piss them off even more. At this point, General Wainwright, the man left in charge of American forces in the Philippines after General MacArthur abandoned his men and fled to Australia, issued the order that all American forces were to surrender on May 6th at noon.
Wait, say that. Who abandoned who? Wait.
Oh yeah, issued the order
say that again.
The Philippines after General MacArthur abandoned his men and fled to Australia, issued the
What? I didn't know that. Like, wait, when he says MacArthur abandoned his men? Am I mistaking who MacArthur is? Like, that seems like pretty bad. Like, did he get court-martialed for that or something? Saying abandoned implies he wanted to leave? Okay. So, like, he didn't want to. It's more like he was probably ordered to when you put that in quotations, because that seems like a pretty bad thing that they would have, that you would just abandon your men, that you would be like, that's a court-martialing or something like that. That doesn't. He was ordered to leave. Okay, that sounds better. Okay. Like not wanting to leave your men, because I was like, I thought I knew who MacArthur was, and I was like, that doesn't sound like something he would have done. Okay, he was more like ordered to. Got it. Okay.
The order that all American forces were to surrender on May 6th at noon. At this point, according to the legend, the entire crew of the USS No-Go, aka Fort Drum, gets together and they have a conversation and talk about whether or not they want to even follow this order, because they think they can go toe-to-toe with the Japanese forever inside of this concrete monstrosity. Unfortunately, they would come to the realization that this decision had already been made for them, because at some point the distillery that purifies their drinking water became damaged, and without US ships being able to bring them water, they weren't going to be able to hold out. So, given that they have to surrender tomorrow, but they still want to fight, they decide, hey, let's get rid of all this ammunition that we have. And they fire at the Japanese ships.
That's the most American thing ever.
As they can for like the next 18 hours straight. And apparently, according to legend, it got so hot inside of Fort Drum that it was able to increase the muzzle velocity of the guns, and they were able to score more hits on Japanese ships that thought that they were out of range. And they continued to fire non-stop until 11:59 on May 6th, when they were finally forced to surrender at noon. They then proceeded to sabotage the guns, the power plant, and flood as much of Fort Drum as they possibly could, making it useless to the Imperial Japanese. At the time of their capture, all 240 men were still alive, and only 5 of them had been injured after weeks of combat. They would then be taken as prisoners by the Imperial Japanese, where the majority of the men would be tortured, starved, and worked to death, and it is believed that less than 30 of the men at Fort Drum returned home after World War II. Fast forward 3 years,
I mean, like, people don't talk about it that often, but the Imperial Japan was... They did a lot of fucked up stuff. Like, this reminds me of, what was it, 728? I can't remember the combination of numbers. Somebody's gonna know what it is. But that camp. And if you want to know more, there's like a Wendigoon video about it. There's a lot of videos. I knew about it before the Wendigoon video, but there's a lot of stuff out there. 731. Yes, 731. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Look, if you thought anime was bad, like, look up 731 and you're gonna be absolutely bad. Absolutely just mullied by what was done in the name of quote unquote science. That was like, the reason we don't talk about it as much is because, you know, we took that information and we gave them like a kind of a pardon, because we wanted to have it like, okay, this information that they got from quote unquote science has already been done. Let's at least use it. And we're going to try to become allies with Japan, or we became allies. So we give them like a pardon with it, and then we rebuild them. So we don't talk about it that much. But it wasn't science. It was brutality. What they did was just in excess. And it wasn't even like, oh, ends justify the means. There was no ends. There were only means, and the means were to cause undue torture, distress, and horrifying atrocities upon people that they thought were less than them. It was awful. It was awful. Monsters exist, and it's us. Humanity is a monster at times. It's awful. Also, welcome, Darren. Sorry, I'll get off my high horse.
1945, America is now winning the war in the Pacific, and they have returned to the Philippines to reclaim them from the Japanese. At this point, Fort Drum is believed to be completely inoperable, and nobody has seen anything that would suggest otherwise, until in April of 1945, an American PT boat would get a little bit too close, and Japanese machine guns would begin firing upon him from Fort Drum. This intel gets sent up the chain of command, at which point nobody really knows what's happening. Maybe they're trying to restore Fort Drum and use it. Maybe there's just a bunch of Japanese soldiers that are being barracked there. Who knows? Either way, Uncle Sam says, you know what? That's mine. and I'm gonna need it back. So at first, they try to
Nice.
bomb it with planes. Obviously, that's not
That's
gonna
not gonna
work.
work.
It didn't work when the Japanese did it. I don't know why they thought it would work now. Then they send out a cruiser to shell it with naval gunfire. Again, obviously, it doesn't work. At which point, shit proceeds to get out of hand pretty quick. Basically, the chain of command didn't really know what to do, so they're like, hear me out. Let's just give the blueprints for Fort Drum to an entire platoon of Army combat engineers, aka the Demolition Men, and tell them to get rid of it, and the sooner they do, the sooner we all get to go home. So the engineers take the blueprints, they go come up with a plan. I don't really know how long it took them. I presume about the same amount of time it takes them to smoke a cigarette. That's probably not a coincidence. They come back to the chain of command. They're like, okay, here's what I need. All right, we're gonna need an entire company of infantry, 1,000 gallons of gasoline, 2,000 gallons of diesel, all the incendiary and white phosphorus grenades you can find, a 30-minute fuse, and a camera guy, because you're going to want to get this shit on video. And apparently the chain of command is like,
Please tell me they got it on
okay,
camera.
so a couple days later, April, Friday the 13th, 1945, the U.S. forces launch Drum D-Day. 2 American ships pull up, drop landing ramps onto Fort Drum, and all the infantry and combat engineers run out to secure the deck, at which point they start taking fire from one of the 6-inch guns. They all return fire, including the ships, until that 6-inch gun stops. Then they secure the entire deck, and the combat engineers get to work. The engineers then run a hose up onto Fort Drum and begin pumping 3,000 gallons of gasoline and diesel into the air vent of Fort Drum.
What? Wait. So the Japanese are in Fort Drum right now, and they're just letting them? They're just like, oh yeah, they're just on us right now. They're like ants on top of us. We're not gonna do anything though. Let them cook indeed. No, yep, they're just letting them. Okay, all right. Wow, wouldn't have thought that. Wow. Also, welcome, Nick. Welcome. They can't get out. Wait, what do you mean they can't get out? They've been completely abandoned inside there? Because I guess if you're already covered in American forces, I guess you're not going to pop out and try to take them on. But there's no other Japanese forces that can come and get them. I mean, obviously not, since they're doing this. I guess maybe the American Navy probably has the area secured, so that would make some sense. There's an entire platoon or company on top of them. They can't just like poke out and just shoot them. I've played Call of Duty. You pop your head out, you shoot them a few times. If you get shot, you just go back in and you wait for your health to recharge. You just wipe off the grape jelly or the jam that's on your face after you get shot, and then you pop back out, and then you do a little bit more shooting. I've played Call of Duty. I've played the military games. I've done the training. This is like military 101, where you do the little pop up and shoot. Come on, it's not that hard. Obviously, this is sarcasm for anyone who doesn't realize it. Okay? So, yep. Yes, and then the dude behind you gets splattered with the forbidden pasta. Yeah, it's just a bunch of like throwing jam and pasta at everybody over in Call of Duty land. The US has the blueprints. All the exits are covered / sealed. Oh, okay, that would make sense. That would also add on to it. I like that they're just putting gasoline into there, though. I like the idea that they're like, no, we're just going to snuff them out. Burn it. Burn all of it. Like the Tildrassil tree in World of Warcraft.
They then proceed to put 600 pounds of TNT, a bunch of white phosphorus, and incendiary grenades on top of it, rig it up to a 30-minute fuse, light it, and fucking run. They hop back in the boats, they sailed a safe distance away, and then they waited, and they watched. And this is what they saw.
Oh, please. Oh my god.
That explosion was so powerful that it shot the 2,000-pound hatch on top of Fort Drum 300 feet into the air. And if you watch the video a little bit closer, you can actually see the hatch punch through the top of the mushroom cloud before falling back into the smoke. The diesel fire inside of Fort Drum then proceeded to burn for 5 days straight, officially putting an end to any hopes of ever restoring it to its former glory. In the coming months, American and Filipino forces would reclaim the Philippines, Japan would end up surrendering, World War II would come to a close, and the next year, on July 4th, 1946, the Philippines would gain their independence, becoming their own sovereign nation, and thus taking control of Fort Drum, where it still sits at the mouth of Manila Bay, pretty much in the same condition that America left it.
Yeah, wait, go back.
It still sits.
This thing was shelled, blown up from the inside. It was constantly bombarded by American and Japanese forces, and it still looks like this. Like, obviously, the explosion from the inside has completely wrecked the internals of it, but that's a solid piece of concrete right there. Oh my god. That is impressive. I completely underestimated how good concrete was. Hey, welcome, Hunky. Welcome, welcome. I saw that you followed not too long ago. Thank you. This is amazing. Oh, Jimmy, thank you for gifting a sub. Oh, thank you, Jimmy. How does it still look extremely good like that, dude? I have no idea. This is amazing. The engineering for concrete structures is far beyond what I thought they could do. Wow. See, because I have a bias against concrete. I hate concrete structures for like urban development, for personal use. Like if I'm gonna see a house and I see like, oh, this is a mansion for a rich guy and it's millions of dollars, and I see it's like almost entirely made of concrete, I get so angry. I get so angry. So I just say that concrete is the worst thing ever, but I did not know how good it would be in like defensive structures that take naval bombardments, like in the trenches and during like on the beaches, those structures. Like I understood that, like, okay, they could take that. But when I was thinking like concrete versus Navy vessels bombarding it and bombers that like, oh, this is our only target, just fucking shell the hell out of it where you have nowhere to go if things go south because you're in the middle of the ocean. I was like, that's not going to hold up eventually. Nah, look at this thing. Jeez, how do you blow that thing up? That's amazing. That is amazing. It's so good.
It's at the mouth of Manila Bay, pretty much in the same condition that America left it, serving as a powerful reminder to not mess with America's boats, or anything that even kinda sorta looks like a boat for that matter, okay? Just don't. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang, out.
All right, I was told to wait till the very end because he might say stuff.
All the examples in the world, and I'm still gonna wake up tomorrow to news that somebody touched the boats.
Don't touch the boats. Don't touch our boats. Don't do it. Okay, is there anything else? Okay, there's nothing else. Okay, we're good. We're good. See, I do read your comments. The comments were saying, make sure to wait until the very end of Fat Electrician videos because he might have a funny little moment at the end. So I did it. I read your comments. I'm always watching. But wow, I love this. I now have a newfound appreciation of concrete and the badass mechanics and engineers that made such an indestructible marvel. Really amazing work. I love this video. I didn't know what it was going to be like going into it, but I really enjoyed it. So thank you for recommending it, chat. Now, if you're still watching, consider liking, maybe leave some other suggestions for other videos or channels for me to watch. Maybe come by the stream or join the Discord. We've got information in the description. But until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day on YouTube. Bye-bye.